My first pair of proper hi-fi speakers were the mighty Mission M32Is. They were a massive step up in what my home system sounded like. Prior to that, I owned various ghetto blasters and CD to all-in-one dual cassette tape systems, and while those were all great and they helped foster my love for music, they didn't hold a candle to the Missions. The Missions were a revelation. They opened my ears to a fuller, deeper sound, and they made my music collection sound brand new. I later purchased the Mission V62 floor standers, and while they didn't visually match, they were great sounding nonetheless. In a few years, the hi-fi bug had fully bitten me, and I sold both pair of Mission speakers to afford my now favorite speakers, the B&W 685 S1s. Those speakers are amazing. No, they're not the most resolute. No, they don't dig the deepest, but damn do they sound good. They gave me the same feeling that the Mission M32Is did when I brought them home. They opened my ears to a fuller, deeper sound, and they made my music collection sound brand new. In any case, I have a heart for Mission, and I find myself drawn to its brand and product lineup to this day. So it's appropriate now that I pair the Mission 778X with my beloved B&W 685s. Two brands that I have a lot of love for coming together to make musical magic. A speaker that sounds great no matter what I connect it to, and a full-featured half-width amp ready to drive them. My name's Taps, this is 0102 Studio, and this is a fairly long-winded review of the Mission 778X amplifier. Let's get into this. I'm pretty sure that every vinyl collector has owned something similar to this. The IKEA Kallax Cube Shelf. Personally, I've owned a few iterations. The Expedit, the Bond, and now the Kallax. I learned to DJ with my decks turned so that they are closer together with a mixer. So therefore, I need a shelf that's a little bit deeper than what the Kallax has to offer. At least 18 inches, 20 inches is preferred. I also need my shelf to be a little bit higher so that my back doesn't hurt when I'm DJing. About 34 inches in height. On a normal Kallax shelf, there just isn't enough room for two turntables, a mixer, an amplifier, and a pair of speakers. Unless you put two Kallaxes side by side, or you attempt to hack two of them together, like I did. So with the help and inspiration from modern builds on YouTube, I hacked mine to make them perfect. My first build didn't go that well. It looks pretty ugly. You've seen it a whole bunch in all of my other videos. I'm not the most handy, so I try to cover up my mistakes with black paint. Yeah. Traditional amplifiers are generally 17 inches wide, and they just don't fit into the Kallax shelf. Unless, of course, you cut one of the vertical shelves and make room for the amplifier. I've done so with my latest hack, the one behind me, to make room for my NAD 326 BEE. The only thing was, I wish that there was a way to keep all the shelves uniform so that I don't have to cut one of the vertical slats to fit a full-size amplifier in. Enter half-width amps. Half-width amps are nothing new. There are a fair amount on the market today, and there always have been. I just really never went for them because I always just assumed that full-size amplifiers sounded better. I received the 778X along with the Audiolab 9000A integrated amplifier. Both amplifiers share a similar design, and while each is badged differently, the care over the build quality assures me that this carries a lot of the Audiolab DNA. It also looks awfully similar to the Quad Vina and the Cirrus Audio 1, though I've only seen those in photos online. The 778X is one of the many new products from Mission. It has a sort of back to the future vibe kind of going on with its speakers and now this amplifier. This new amp is a bit of a throwback. The original 778 amp from Mission was released back in 1983. I was 6. That amp was also narrow and apparently a bit of a hit. The 778X features a metal chassis and two large knobs, one for volume and the other for source selection. Both knobs have a nice feel. Between the knobs you'll find a power button, an IR receiver, and a headphone jack. Underneath the knobs is this black strip which is just there to house the Mission logo and the product name. I could do without that, to be honest. I feel like it would look much nicer without it, and besides, there's a huge Mission logo on the top panel, so you don't really need it. Logos aside, it's still a beautiful amplifier. It has the exposed screws and the white silver metal finish that the Audiolab 9000A has. The amp is also available in black. The amplifier comes equipped with all the features that a modern day music lover would need. 1 coaxial, 2 optical, PC USB, Bluetooth aptX AAC, 2 analog ins, 1 moving magnet phono input. The DAC is an ESS Sabre 32ES9018K2M, if you have any idea what that means. Power rating is 45 watts into 8 ohms and 65 into 4. The only thing missing is tone controls, and usually that's a bit of a deal breaker for me. But selfishly, in my specific use case for this, it doesn't really matter to me at all. I use this amp primarily with my DJ setup, and I have full reign over the tone controls via my Pioneer mixer. As you can expect, after unpacking this amplifier, I immediately stuffed it into one of the cube shelves of my longer Calyx hack IKEA shelf. Stupidly, I hadn't given much thought to switching out audio gear when I built the shelf. So I had to cut holes in the back panel of the shelf to facilitate running wires and switching out audio cables. The 778X fit nicely with sufficient room on the sides and plenty on top. Aside from my DJ setup, I tried out this amp along with the Cambridge Audio Alva TT V2 turntable, boy it's a long name, and the CXC CD player. I also tried out some other speakers, namely the Monarch Audio Silver 107Gs and the Q Acoustics 3030Is, with both of those speakers sitting on top of the Calyx shelf. I also employed the B&W 610 to fill in the lower regions. The 778X, while looking similar to the Audiolab 9000A, also sounds really similar. It's neutral as hell, and therefore it seemingly gets out of the way and doesn't add any color to the overall sound. I was able to power the B&W 685s no problem, and the two were seemingly a perfect match. Also, don't let the 45 watts of power fool you. The mission is more than up to task of going good and loud, and to be honest, given my speaker pairings, I wasn't able to hit the upper bound limits of the amplifier without having to turn the volume down to save my hearing. I ran mostly drum and bass for my first few weeks of having this amplifier. Unlike most times, I was letting the tracks run longer and I was taking steps back from the decks to pay attention to the sound to see if there was any glaring standouts in comparison to my usual NAD amplifier. The only thing maybe was that the Mission sounded slightly smoother in comparison to the NAD, which sounded a little bit more harsh and dark, but only just. The neutral nature of the 778X came into play when spinning CDs or vinyl. There, I found myself wanting a bit more warmth or a bit of bass bloat. But as long as I kept my track selection to vocal music or funk and soul, I was in the clear. Switching speakers out to the Monarch Audio Silver 107Gs and moving back to my DJ setup, I was delighted to find that the amplifier was more than capable of powering those speakers. In fact, I found them to be a close second to my B&W 685s. With the subwoofer disconnected, they might have come out on top. They dig far deeper than the 685s, and they seem to go quite a bit louder too. The sound was much more room-filling, especially in our large basement. This is the sort of amplifier that I wish I had the foresight to pick up when I was younger. It fits really well into the Calyx shelf unit, and it really cleans up my DJ setup. It's perfect for a small room, and it has enough power to fill a modest-sized basement or even a big one, depending on what speakers you pair it with. The Mission 778 more than exceeded my expectations and is full-featured enough to stave off an upgrade for years to come. And if you ever want to upgrade, there's pre-outs on it, so you can just hook up another amplifier and Bob's your uncle. Whew, okay, and if you've made it this far, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It'll help me out a lot and I'd appreciate it. Thank you.